This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp.com.
Speaking of therapy.
Yeah, speaking of therapy and all things mental health.
Yes. And this was here it is again where we talk about addiction and like it's such a co-occurring disorder. That's what we call them, is co-occurring disorders, where you have a chemical dependency addiction along with a mental health diagnosis. And yeah, this episode's sponsored by BetterHelp.com. You know, they have over 4,000 licensed counselors. And you could, they have all these, it's a great platform where you can speak with a therapist in a variety of different ways. You know, with COVID going on, a lot of people aren't, they might not be able to see their regular therapist, or, people I hear all the time are, I had a really great therapist and then they left or they moved.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, I hear a lot, they moved and it's like, now I got to find another one. And it's so hard. You tell your story, you tell your story and it's like, now I got to find another person. Hopefully I can connect it with, where BetterHelp, they have this algorithm where you answer certain questions to try and pick a person that will best, not a person, a therapist to best help you.
Yeah. Well, therapists, counselors, they have all kinds of things. Obviously, addiction is a big, it's the reason why we're doing this show.
Yeah.
So licensed drug and alcohol counselors are available there. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy. People will say like, Google it. Go Google something. Googling a therapist is actually really difficult.
It is. It really, not a joke. It really is. Through my job, I had to find therapists in certain towns, and it's so hard, especially small towns. It's like there's that one therapist. So if you're in the small town, there's this one therapist that you can try and see. And if all these people, 1 in 4 people, are struggling with some mental health concerns and they're trying to see a therapist, all these people are going to want to see this one therapist, and the likelihood of getting in to see them people like to go weekly.
Yeah.
How many things can happen in your week where you're like, oh my gosh, I need to meet with my therapist. With BetterHelp.com, you can talk to your therapist.
Yeah. Yeah. So, this is, the best search engine for your mental health.
Yeah.
So go to BetterHelp.com/DDGD. That's the name of the network that you're on right now. Duck, Duck, Grey, Duke, the acronym. And yeah, support the podcast by supporting your mental health.
Yeah. Because then you can be better for yourself and your family and those around you. You can be a better worker. You can be a better husband, a better wife, a better spouse, a better partner, better parent.
Yeah.
Whatever. Bettering yourself is so important, because you can't take care of those around you unless you're taking care of yourself at the end of the day. I tell my patients that all the time, because you get to the point where you might be one of those people taking care of everyone around you and you forget about yourself, and then you almost have this breakdown. So start taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. BetterHelp.com/DDGD. Enjoy the show.
Who is it? Do I know him?
His name's Mike French.
He's a rollerblader.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know him.
You might when you see him, because he kind of looks like a Backstreet Boy.
All right, let's just.
I think him and his brother were on that Blind Date. Remember that game show? Mm-hmm. Or maybe it wasn't that. It was some MTV dating show.
My name's Kim, and I'm married to an addict alcoholic.
Hi, Kim. My name is Chris, and I am an addict alcoholic. I don't know why I gave you the finger guns for that. Hey.
Hi, Chris. It must be like, hey, I'm that guy. I'm the one you're married to.
Yeah, I want to get into it, but like we're kind of running late tonight, so
we'll just get into it at the end.
Yeah, we'll do that at the end. So we have a phone call with former professional rollerblader, Mike French. I'm excited to talk to him. He's been through a lot, and yeah, it should be good. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, brother. How you doing?
Good. I was just telling my wife how you look like a Backstreet Boy.
Hey, not just me. My twin brother does too.
That's fair.
Which Backstreet Boy?
Actually, my whole family does, honestly.
You guys are the whole crew, huh?
We have 2 sets of multiples in my family.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, my mom has twins and triplets.
Holy shit! I didn't know that.
Jeez.
That is wild. So, dude, I'm excited to jump into this, but first, if we could do like a little bit of history.
Yeah.
Did you guys grow up in Minnesota?
I was born. Me and my brother were born in Washington State, and we lived there till we were 7. Then we moved to Wichita, Kansas, from 7 to 10, and then from 10 to 18, I lived in Minnesota, and now I'm back here since I've been 30. Okay.
And so, did you guys pick up rollerblading when you were in Minnesota or in Washington?
It's kind of both. We knew a lot of rollerbladers in Minnesota. I mean, in Washington, but we only saw them do it when we went back to visit. And then when we were living out here is where we actually picked it up. Some of our neighbors were skating in their front yard on some kinked rails and some PVC rails, and we were jocks. And we were walking by off our school bus, and they'd call us jocks, and we called them skater punks. And then one night they TP'd our house, they ding-dong ditched our house. And my mom had the triplets were just babies in their bassinets upstairs and had just gotten all 3 of them to sleep, and they ding-dong ditched us and woke them up, and me and my brother were downstairs, and we ran up and ran out the front door and caught them and had them by their hair, and we were, fighting with them, and like, you skater punks, he woke up our little brothers and sister. And so then we ended up seeing them skate the next day, and we were like, let's go talk to them. Let's see what they're doing, because it looked fun.
Yeah.
And then they were like, what do you guys want? We were like, we want to try that. And they were like, I guess you could try it. And they let us use a couple pairs of skates, and been hooked ever since, honestly.
Oh, wow, man. That's really cool. I didn't know that's how it all started.
Yeah. We, when we were 12 years old, or about 11, 11 or 12, we got our first pair of skates. And then, we got the, Roasties Minneapolis's. And, I remember they weren't really aggressive skates, but my buddy's like, we'll make them work. And then we ended up, when we were about 15, we were, just starting high school, 14, just starting high school. And we had really wanted to buy this half pipe from the Roseville Oval because they were getting rid of it.
Oh,
and
wow.
We threw a party, and we made a skate video, and we said, for everybody that donates $20, we'll give them a skate video, and then we're going to throw a party once we buy the half pipe. So we talked to our whole school, and it was a lot of rich kids, so we talked them all into donating money, and then we bought a half pipe, and then we gave out copies of our VHS video that we made, and had the Roseville Oval half pipe. And one of my best friends down on the corner, his name was Chris Stormalin. We grew up skating with it. He's a really good kid. Now he's a full-grown adult. Growing up, we were worst enemies, and we ended up being best friends.
Wow. That's wild, man.
And we bought a kink rail from him, too, from the Oval. So we had some nostalgic skate park stuff over at my buddy's house. And what was messed up is, like, when we go cause trouble in the neighborhoods, like around Halloween, that first year we had the half pipe, I remember we were rolling pumpkins that we took the wax out of, for skating. And then we took the pumpkins over to this hill, and we'd roll it down the hill into cars because we were just bad kids. And while we were doing that, we got caught, and the police were looking for us while we were on bikes. We were young kids, or, 14, 15, whatever it was. And I remember we got grounded, and he got grounded because our parents were like, when they come back, we're grounding them all, and he got to sit there and be grounded with the skate park in his backyard, and we'd be like, oh man, we'd have to walk by after school, see him skate the half pipe. Like, we wish we were grounded at his house.
That's wild, man. So now, obviously, the reason that you're calling in today is for something a little less fun.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. So what city did you grow up in then?
In Minnesota?
Yeah.
It's actually the city I'm in right now. I'm at my mom's house out in Woodbury.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, it's we moved in here in 92 or 93, and this neighborhood was empty. There was just fields, and now then it became one of the fastest growing cities in America, one of the fastest growing suburbs, and now it's kind of leveled out, but it's still really nice in my mom's neighborhood.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So
what you're talking about, the sobriety thing, I'm just as passionate about it as I am about rollerblading. because without this newfound recovery, I think I'd still be living in a life of, being isolated and alienating, just staying away from everybody that I loved, because they say the opposite of addiction is connection, and while I was going through my throes of addiction, I was really, really just alone, and that's someplace I never want to be again,
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I'm interested, like, I'm assuming like most Minnesota kids, you probably started drinking when you were in high school.
Well, this rollerblading thing is kind of, I guess I don't want to blame it on that, because skateboarding is kind of where it started for me and my brother. We were skating a half pipe. This guy, Mark Lesky, he used to have a half pipe out in Oakdale. And me and Derek didn't know him. He was an older guy, but our friends knew him. And so we'd go, me and my brother were in Catholic school from 4th to 8th grade. And boy, you want to talk about a miserable time. While we were in that, we would go, hang out with these skateboarders who were smoking cigarettes, drinking 40s, and we're only 10 or 11 years old, and one day I want to do that, but I couldn't ride sideways. So I was just killing myself in a half pipe trying to learn how to skateboard, and, ended up realizing, you can skate forward on these things, but I got introduced to the alcohol kind of early, never really wanted anything to do with it. Then, once you get good at rollerblading, you get to go to competitions, and got USD, I think, and Razor skates were, Razors first, but Razor sent me out to go to a couple different competitions. And we would also, back in the early years, with Ben Weiss and John Larson and Shane McClay, and a lot of the names that, if you're a true Minnesota skater, you know who they are. Jeff Howard, Chris Farmer. We'd all have, our heydays back skating, and Billy Lanham, Chad Reek, and I, everybody, we would be back skating it for a company called Legacy back in the day, and going to demos in Austin, Minnesota, like Spam Jam, or doing demos for people when we were pretty young. We'd do the state fair for Third Layer, and kind of as young kids, not really knowing what we're doing, but risking our lives at something we're good at. And then afterwards, our kind of like our letting loose was getting drunk, and smoking weed, and the next thing you know, you don't really realize you're kind of addicted to it, and one of the things I remember is being 17 years old and being like, wow, there are going to be a bunch of people at that party. Oh, I'm nervous. I have a lot of anxiety. And when I was young, I never had any anxiety. An extrovert where you put me around people and I just wouldn't shut up. And then when you add alcohol into it, all of a sudden it's like, God, I got to get drunk really quick so I can talk with people. And at 17, that's kind of a weird ailment to have, or moving into 18, 19, and you're like, whoa, I'm getting nervous. I better drink. And it was weird because during the day I could skate around thousands of people, skate in front of thousands of people. But at night when it came down to having to converse with people, I was kind of out of my element, which was weird, and kind of turned to alcohol. And then, of course, as the years went on, that turned into getting too drunk and blacking out. And, we'd go party down in Mankato, and we'd always go down there with Ben Weiss and everybody on the weekends, and just atrocious times, blacking out, some of the best memories, but also some of the worst hangovers. And then you look back on it and you're like, I barely remember anything, and it turned into a lot of coke use and ecstasy and stuff like that at an early age. And then
I want to circle back real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm so glad that you framed that the way that you did, because I have been saying it for months about how, like, the dynamic of these young kids who have talent, when you're as good as somebody who's older than you, it breaks down this wall, and they just assume that you can handle the same shit that they can handle
100%
when it comes to substances. So it's like, I've been saying that, and I hope that, like, people think about that, like how, like, Chamey?
Yeah, really well.
So he was 15, 16, staying the night at my house. And I don't remember him asking for booze or anything, but, like, I remember just feeling like it was totally normal, and we were 25 or something like that. And
yeah, there's a lot of that going on in the rollerblading industry when we were coming up too. Well, I mean, having parties at my house where 25, 26-year-olds are here, and I'm 17, my mom's out of town throwing a Halloween party, and just trashing the house and having a hot tub party, stuff like that. And when you brought that up, it kind of sparked a memory I had. Do you remember Lake Owen?
Yeah.
So I went out to Lake Owen as a visiting pro when I was, I was probably 16 years old, 17 years old. And there used to be a bar called Schwamigan's, I think it's called. We used to just call it Schwammies. And as a visiting pro, you get paid $500 a week, which is pretty awesome to just go skate and hang out at the camp where you can fish and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And so really I look at it back at it now, and that was kind of a priceless memory. But of course, you're hanging out with people that are way older than you, 20, 25, 30, 35, and they're going out to this bar. And then one of the memories I have is everybody thinking I can hang. And then I'm riding home on the top of a Jeep doing 100 miles an hour, where they're joking around, turning the lights off and stuff. And then I black out. I don't remember anything. I wake up the next day, and this is kind of one of the funniest memories I have. But when you look back on it, going through addiction, going through sobriety, recovering, you kind of think of how close you came to death. But the next morning, I remember talking to Alex Boyd, who's always been a really good friend of ours. And he said, "Man, I had the craziest dream last night." I said, "What's that?" I'm waking up on the floor of a cabin, just head hurting. And he's like, "I had the craziest dream that you woke up and you walked over here and you picked up, or you just start peeing all over Jeremy's stuff." And I'm like, no way, and he's like, "Yeah, man." And then I said, "Hey, Mike, what are you doing?" And you looked at me and you said, "Coward." And then you went back to sleep on the floor. And I was like, "No way. Good thing that was a dream," and Jeremy picks up some of his socks and squeezes them, and just piss comes out. And I'm like, "Damn, that really happened." So then they put me in the camp, in the thing with the gymnast, in the cabinet with the gymnast. And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be embarrassing. They're all going to know, I got drunk and peed all over somebody's stuff." And then they took me back out to the bar again that night, and the same thing happened, except for I guess I peed on the table where the guys were playing cards. They were up and awake, and I walked in like blacked out and just peed right on their card table. And it's like, that is just miserable memories, and it's like, when you're that young and you're trying to hang with these pros that are, just can go out and get drunk and even drive back, to the cabin. And it's like, I'm 17 years old being like, I don't think alcohol is for me, but everybody drinks at all the skate trips, all that. And, that kind of stuff, I try and warn younger kids. Like, I don't know if you know Casey, but Casey is kind of he's a good dude. We went out and street skated yesterday, and, I was talking to him, and he's like, "Man, I really wish I was, around when, I wish I was older like you guys and would have hung out with you guys when you guys were skating. It would have been awesome to be a part of, like, watch Ben Weiss skate, to party with you guys. It looked like there was, like, that scene back then looked so awesome." And it's like, it was great, but there's a lot of miserable times, and there's a lot of addiction, and a lot of us are all going through different phases of our lives right now. And, some people are normies. Some people can hang with just having a couple drinks, and some of us are going to be fighting addiction for the rest of our lives,
Yeah. Well, and like skate videos, you think about like the FOR videos and like hyphy, like all of these videos that were glorifying this kind of party thing. So even if you were in a small town, you started like, because I remember watching skate videos, and because we were seeing that shit, plus Jackass and all that stuff was going on.
Bum fights.
Yeah. So we just like thought that that's what you did. If you skate, you must smoke weed. So like,
and you must drink alcohol. Totally.
Yeah, it's wild to think like something that has so many good memories attached to it, like, was really the beginning. Well, do you have addiction in your family? Like, was there anything before you guys?
Yeah, my dad, horrible addict. I mean, we don't really talk much with him now because there's a lot of mental illness involved with it, like a bipolar schizophrenic.
Okay.
And so, we never knew he was self-medicating, but it was with alcohol, and my mom always kept us away from him, kind of being like, "Yeah, no, you don't need to be around your dad." And we were like, "Fuck you, we're going to be around our dad anyway," and then we didn't find out till we were about 30 years old. We went and stayed with him for a couple of months, and that was just worst experience ever. But just because, the doctors messed with his meds, and it ended up really spiraling out of control because he thought people were like listening into his conversations. And you know what I mean? It's, mental illness is a son of a bitch, and especially when it's with ones you love. And, unfortunately our addiction too, we were just trying to party and get fucked up with people we didn't even know, and because we just moved to Washington for 6 months. But the rollerblade scene was really good out there. Dave Hill and a lot of those guys were fun to skate with, and Eric Univer, and just a bunch. Kellen would come out every once in a while. I don't know if you know Kellen.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. Yeah, really good dude. And but the one thing that I look back on, even though addiction kind of was a stigma that goes along with rollerblading for me when I think back on it, no matter where I went, it was also the one thing that saved me from a terrible life, you know? When I would get in, like in Arizona, that was like the worst. Cause we lived at ASU, you know, right in Tempe. Oh. We'd be partying with JB Snyder, partying with, you know, just the craziest crew of people, you know, Dustin Latimer, stuff like that. And, you're getting messed up the whole time, but at the same time, the next day it's like, all right, time to rollerblade, you know? And
yeah,
if it weren't for rollerblading, I'd probably, I don't even know. I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah. It is weird to think like, but I mean, that's another thing I've been saying a lot too, is like, people don't realize like how Arizona is like the most extremes on both sides.
Yeah.
Like there's like the ultra conservative, never touch substances, some of the best treatment facilities in the country. But then on the opposite end, some of the worst addiction. And like you were saying, ASU, I mean, is notorious for being like one of the biggest party colleges in the United States. Yeah.
No, ASU is ridiculous. Pool parties every weekend, stuff like that. But I mean, people's lives are being ruined with DUIs everywhere, you know, and I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. Like, even Washington State, so they put through the, you know, you can smoke recreationally there, you know, a while ago. And me and my brother were just talking about this. But what's crazy is, you know, they can also give you a DUI for having weed in your system, even though it's legal. You know, weed stays in your system for up to 30 days. But say you nick a car while you're driving because you're, say, inattentively driving, you know.
Oh, wow.
You hit a car, you know, the cops can be like, we think it was a DUI. You know, test you, find out you have weed in your system and give you a DUI. Just even, it could have been 10 days since you smoked last. You know, and I mean, it's just kind of a double-edged sword, you know. And ASU, I don't know how many people, like my brother got his DUI there. You know, you just see that everywhere. And these young kids are just totaling, you know, the new car mom and dad just bought them, you know. And I mean, there's a lot of that out there. But then at the same time, what's weird is I never really got into too hard of drugs while I was in Arizona. I mean, cocaine and stuff like that. And then when I got out back here to Minnesota is when the real hard drugs hit, you know, and started being around people that were no bueno. And, you know, one thing that drives me nuts thinking about it is no matter where you go, there you are. And it just depends on where you're at in your addiction. You'll find it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And you see people really good people going through, you know, it might just be alcohol for one person, you know, and then it might be gambling for another person, or it might be, you just see all types. And I didn't really realize that until I went to treatment. And, I mean, I noticed it when I went to jail, but in jail, I was more concerned about getting out of jail than I was kind of trying to find my sobriety and start working on my recovery, you know. And when I went to treatment, I went to RS Eden out here in Minneapolis, which is one of the hardest treatment facilities in the state. And, you know, you don't really realize what people are going through until you become vulnerable and you start talking about what's really, you know, getting to the root of problems that cause addiction. Because really, drug use and alcohol use are really just the way we cope with the things that are bothering us, you know?
Yeah. And well, here, let's go back a little bit and go back to, because you kind of skimmed over being in jail.
Okay. Yeah. I got horrible ADHD.
No, I don't take my
ADHD meds anymore.
Say, Chris is the same way.
Yeah.
So when you went to jail, was that like your rock bottom then, or?
Yeah, no, that was it. Yeah, that was my rock bottom. That was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So what happened was like I had some relationship issues. I don't really want to get into it in public, you know, as far as what happened. And some things happened in the throes of addiction, like some relationship issues, but some other issues that happened that legally I can't talk about. But I have court tomorrow, actually. It's sentencing to find out if I go to prison or if I'm just going on probation, which is kind of weird that it happens to be tomorrow. And we're having this podcast talk tonight. But so 16 months ago, I was caught. I used to sell drugs quite a bit. And I was, when you get a great job, but you're a skater, and I'm talking back, let's look back here, like 15 years ago. You're traveling around, going on different skate tours, things like that, or just leaving the town for the weekend to go on a skate trip. You just quit your job because you'll find another one when you get back into town. Yeah. You know, and I was working at good places like Monster.com, Lenovo, IBM, places like that, you know, really good jobs because I've been a salesman my whole life. And then you start thinking, okay, well, you know, what can I do? What can I do? Well, what's always going to be here when I get back, you know? And so I start selling drugs. And one of the hardest parts about it is at the time you think, oh, everywhere you look in the media, it's kind of glorifying it. And it's something in the skate industry. Everybody comes to town. Hey, where we get some weed, even people that were against selling drugs or doing drugs, when they had a skate person come to town, that person, like, say, Frankie, looking for a bag of weed, you know what I mean?
Man.
I'm not trying to throw his name out there, but that happened all the time in the industry. And, I'd be the one, or, sometimes that they would call. And anyways, it became kind of recession proof. And, as far as what was going on in my life, I thought that was something that I could always kind of turn to. And man, if anybody that knows me really well knows that whatever they needed, I would try and get, and it was really bad for me because I ended up playing this role, as like more the go-to guy for that, or a place to go party, and, even in Arizona. And then when I moved back here, unfortunately that carried on with me. And, 16 months ago, I got caught in Wisconsin with quite a bit of drugs, and ended up going to jail for 6 months. And that was my rock bottom, because I disconnected from the entire skate world. I disconnected from my entire family. I wasn't even talking to my twin brother. My life became something where the healing had to start. I had to start mending all the relationships that I decided to just shit on, and whether it would be just disconnecting from people, or, people asking me how I'm doing fine. Why are you even asking, just having an attitude with people when I knew damn well that my life was fucked up and upside down, after unhealthy relationship to unhealthy relationship with women. And then, coming to grips with being in jail, not having anybody, and then I started getting a hold of my brother. My brother's, willing to help me any way he could. And then I started trying to, the thing was, is I got locked up 6 days before my daughter came to town. My daughter lives in Arizona. Oh. And, so she's 11 years old now. And, I had her till she was 6, and she was living out here with me in Minnesota. And then her mom came and basically regained custody. And, I had lost custody because I was living at my mom's house, and her side of the family was ultra rich, and she could provide that kind of atmosphere of, hey, I have my own house, I have all these things. And I was kind of trying to put my life together back then. And I wasn't going through too bad of addiction then, but that seriously set me into a kind of a spiral when I lost my daughter. And when she went back to Arizona, I ended up having my son 4.5 years ago. So he was born on the 16th of July, 2016. And so anyways, just to get back to that, she was about to come here, and she was going to be here in 6 days, and I got busted selling drugs, and went to jail. And it's something where, I had to basically go through, I don't know if have you done the 12 steps for AA or any of that kind of stuff?
I'm familiar with them. I have a weird relationship with the 12 steps.
Me too. You explain your weird relationship first.
So for me, like, because I mean, and it's great that you brought up like the mental health stuff, because what I've found is that mental health has so much to do with addiction in most cases, whether it's trauma or an unknown behavioral disorder like massive depression. Like there's these underlying things, and it's something that I always kind of knew about myself. So while I was in treatment learning about the 12 steps, I just kept wanting to know more about mental health and like why your brain thinks that you need alcohol to survive or substance to survive. And so I went down this like rabbit hole of learning how your brain functions and how you, because, and I don't know how much you know about that, but like, have you heard of the midbrain?
Huh.
So basically humans were born with this basic instincts, these things that we need
primitive?
Primitive things. And your brain needed a way to make you want to do these things to survive.
Right.
And so that's where dopamine comes in.
Yep.
So when you introduce substance, it doubles the amount of dopamine. And so your midbrain normally so it's a 3-part thing. Part 1 talks to part 2, and then part 3 is the action taking.
Right.
So there's the instinct, there's thinking about it, and then there's taking action.
Right.
When us addicts are in it for long enough, the midbrain skips that second step and then just goes right to action. So like those times when you're like, I didn't even want to smoke, but I like just started smoking. Like
100%.
It's because you carved this pathway in your brain. And so your brain literally thinks that you need it to survive on a primitive level, like not metaphorically, like it's just what your body thinks it thinks that dopamine is associated with survival. It's more than just a good time. Like it literally thinks that you need that
to survive.
Yeah. So that's like,
that makes a lot of sense. The science aspect of it.
Yeah. So I went to a lot of NA meetings. I didn't like the AA meetings so much. So
really, they're pretty cliquey. Being a drug addict, going to an AA meeting for me was like, somebody kill me. These people are looking at me crazy. You get up there and you say anything about substance abuse, if it's not alcohol related, they almost, like they look at you like a vampire in the daylight. Get out of here. And it was kind of weird. But
I'm not a religious guy either, and NA meetings were more like-minded in that respect most of the time.
Right.
So I gravitated towards those guys.
I went to, like I said, RS Eden, which is actually a behavioral modification in a therapeutic community is what they call it.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of a fancy way to say, hey, we figure out what's causing you to do drugs and we fix it. But, it's not like a 30-day spin drive where you just go in and, you get sober and they're like, all right, good luck with the world. We'll see what happens. See you in 90 days, and, I didn't go there because it was court ordered. I went there because my brother had gone out of his way when we had our relationship issues. He said, you know what? I want to quit doing drugs. I want to quit partying. I want to grow up and be a dad. And he went and checked himself into treatment. And when he checked himself into treatment, he kept trying to get me to go into treatment. And that's kind of the part I was talking about when I was just blowing off my loved ones, like, nah, I'm not ready for that. That's for quitters, And then I end up going through my rock bottom, like I was telling her, and, that ended up being kind of the time where I was sitting in jail thinking about it, being like, boy, I'd sure like to be in treatment right now rather than Polk County, Wisconsin jail. And, after 6 months of dealing with, there's a lot of meth mutants in there, and there's a lot of people that, you can tell that they're never going to ever want to kick the drug or never want to get done. Like, there's a lot of DUI guys in there that are just like, man, if I would have just been driving my other car, I wouldn't be in here. There's even a guy who was in there for fucking a deer. Too close to the road, and it's like Wisconsin's weird. Wisconsin's really weird. And
have you not fucked a deer before?
Well, when I did it was 30 feet away from the road, so it was completely legal. But you gotta. What was weird is they all thought I was a cop because I had all my teeth, and I don't know. It was they thought I was 60 days in, which is another weird thing to be accused of, and
that's interesting.
It's like, dude. Yeah, I've been here for 6 months. What are you talking about? And then getting out and being like, Judge, I'd like to go to treatment. And they're like, really? After being in jail that long? It's like, yeah, that's actually what I'd like to do. And so they released me to go to treatment after I paid bail. And I went to treatment, and I get to treatment thinking it's gonna be 30 days, and they let me. My brother's tricking me into it. Yeah, some people get through it real fast. 60 days, you'll be out of here. I'm like, cool, that's sweet. I can do that. I just did 6 months in jail, and I get there and I'm like, all right, hitting it head on. And then they start getting you to deal with feelings again, and in jail, you just had to act tough and people left you alone, and then, you get to treatment and they're like, you see people crying because they're talking about their relationship with their father or, just weird, being molested, things like that. And you're like, holy shit, these people are really dealing with their feelings. And then, you start dealing with them a little bit, but still being cautious. And then finally full blown, you're like, screw it, dude. If I'm going to be here, I'm going to make it work, but they make you write something called an autobiography.
Oh yeah.
Which is basically everything that's ever happened in your life that had to do with drugs, alcohol, or trauma. And you've got to, you can't do it in a glorifying manner. You can't talk about, and so it really makes you deal with a lot of these things that you've done in your life, or it's kind of, and when you look at it, you're basically doing the 12 steps. It's kind of your inventory, if you know what that step is,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of in a way of like, hey, we're just getting all this shit out of our, when you hold the secret, that's kind of what'll keep you sick, So when you hold these things that you've done to people or things that have been done to you, and you hold those secrets, that's another reason to use when you get out, so they try and deal with these things head on. And you see a lot of people going through it. And then there's a lot of people that are just doing it to get out of jail or get out of prison.
Yeah.
And I was doing it cause I want to get better, and, things have gotten significantly better for me. And, it was like I said, a program that was supposed to last, they say about 90 to 120 days. And I just graduated last month. So if you do the math on that, it was about an 11-month program for me.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I went there November 5th and just graduated actually at the beginning of October. So, I mean, just about 11 months.
Dude, that's amazing. There's a lot of people that give up, man.
Well, and I mean, believe me, it's an everyday fight. I'll have memories of just using or selling drugs or things that I've done in the past. And, even just my Adderall. I don't know if you've actually been diagnosed with ADHD or not, but that's another huge stigma is that, like, when you're 12 years old and a doctor's like, here's what you need, it's 30 milligram Adderalls, and that's going to help you focus. And so I'm taking speed, before that, they would give you prescription pills, like when you're kind of a guinea pig. I was on Dexedrine, Ritalin, all sorts of these pills that you couldn't even imagine taking at that young of an age. Or now looking back on it, it's like, holy shit, no wonder I had insomnia at 11, Oh,
wow.
And if I wouldn't have found skating, I probably would have just been a doped out weirdo, causing trouble. But, I don't take Adderall anymore. And the reason why is because at this treatment facility, they actually kind of taught you a lot about what causes ADHD. And I don't know if you've ever gotten into the study of that, but the nickname for it kind of in the scientific world is kind of a attunement attachment disorder. And it's really intriguing if you get into it. But
yeah, that's interesting.
I kind of taught myself how to read again, which was crazy because I could only read when I was on pills, and otherwise my mind goes 150,000 different places while I'm reading. I'll read through a page and be like, damn, what did I just read? I have to reread it again.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. So now, I mean, after going through a ton of different therapy, and Derek, I'm on the phone. Dude, Jesus. My brother's like, dude, what are you doing, bro? I've been telling him I got to do this all day, and he's just trying to be a pain in my ass. We're at my mom's house having my last supper in case I go to prison tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
No, but what I was doing is what I was explaining about before Derek walked out and rudely interrupted me. I've kind of gotten to the point where with treatment and with everything, I'm just 100% substance free. I even quit smoking cigarettes, if you can believe that. After smoking for 25 years, which is kind of crazy to me because I never thought I'd be able to quit. But I want to do this thing. I spent the first half of my life trying to kill myself, I feel like, and now I'm trying to live, and I think that's the best thing I can try and teach to any young kids, period, is that you don't have to try and kill yourself all the time. You can just keep that with skating, if that's your thing, or skateboarding.
Man, that's risky enough for sure. I'm chewing nicotine gum right now.
Hey, you know what? I quit cold turkey. So here's what happened to me. I got out of treatment, was just about to graduate, and my judge has kind of a bone to pick with me because I've done everything I'm supposed to do. And he still, for some reason, wanted to lock me up. So I'd been sober for 14 months, and I went to court. And I went to go sign a deal saying that, I would basically, plead guilty to the 2 charges. And that he would, he's like, well, we'll just give you probation. You won't see the inside of a jail cell. You'll never see the inside of a prison cell as long as you keep your nose clean, basically 3 years of probation. Well, the DA is okay with that. The district attorney. We go into court, and the judge is like, I still have the right to revoke your bond and throw you in jail, right? I said, no, I had no idea. My lawyer didn't talk to me about that. He said, yeah, I have the right to do that. I'm going to do that. So he revoked my bond and threw me in jail after being clean for 14 months. And,
oh, my God.
Yeah, so I was supposed to be in there for 60 days, but this treatment facility, my brother, my mom, everybody wrote letters, character letters, just saying, hey, look, he's doing what he's supposed to. Even the DA said, hey, this is kind of what we encourage is people to do the right thing. And this guy's done everything he's supposed to. Even after he got out of jail, he checked himself into treatment. And this is kind of what the state asks offenders to do. And if he hasn't even had one issue, why are we locking him up? And he's like, well, that's just what we're doing. And then, I went to jail. But he ended up having to let me out 6 days later because my mom wrote a really moving letter saying that I would be released into her custody. So
Hey.
here I am at 37 years old getting released into Sheriff Donna's custody, my mom. Nicest lady in the world. But
Well,
I'll tell you
like
the truth, it's been pretty humiliating, but I mean, I try and practice humility every day. So
the judicial system still has
There's a stigma.
the stigma because only 5% of us make it without relapsing.
well, and that's what I've been told is actually it's even less than that when it comes down to like methamphetamines and things like that.
Oh, wow.
So, and that was kind of what I was involved with. And as much as I hate to admit that, you know what I mean? It was something that changed my life forever because here I am, this pretty boy from Woodbury, you know, that, you know, could sell anything. I could sell, like I always told people, I could sell, you know, ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves or bubble gum to a lockjaw patient, you know, and here I am running around, you know, selling meth. And it's something that really fucked my life up. And now looking at it head on, I try and help people that are dealing with that because it's a huge secret people will hold. You know, they won't tell people what their drug of choice is. There's people I know that are still addicted to pain pills. And, you know, I went through all that. And that's one of the parts I kind of skipped is that when I was in Arizona, I was, you know, kind of at my peak of being, you know, a really good rollerblader, having all my shit together, being on MTV with my brother, you know, everything looked like it was going amazing when we did the Room Raiders.
Room Raiders, that's what it was called.
Yeah, we did the Room Raiders episode. Everything was going great, but behind the scenes, nobody knew we were selling coke to the cameraman, you know? And the other thing is, like, I sprained my ankle and I got 2 blood clots in my left leg. And all because of a defective pair of Dominic Sagona skates, the clasp would just unbuckle.
Oh, wow.
And I'm with Shane McClay, my brother, we're filming. And I go to do a misfit on a kink rail, and I land on my boot weird, and the fucking strap opens up, and I just sit on it in the hurdler strain, it's called, and sprained my ankle. Next thing you know, I got 2 blood clots. And in Arizona, I kept going to the doctor, and they kept telling me, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. Just take more pain pills. Oh, here's more pain pills. Just take these. You'll be fine. It's not even broken. It's just a sprain. And I'm like, no, there's something up in my calf. You know, it's way higher. It's something up there. They're like, no, just you're fine. You know. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm fine. So New Year's comes around. I think that was actually New Year's Day. I think when it happened, and you know, partying with everybody. And I'm just like, dude, this is really bad. And about a week later, I ended up flying to Minnesota to get medical help because Arizona's doctors, their hospitals were just not taking me seriously. And then I came to Woodbury, went right across the street to the Alina Healthcare, and my family doctor from when I was just a kid was like, yeah, you've got 2 blood clots. So I ended up.
I can't believe you took a plane ride. That's so dangerous.
Well, that's the other thing. He said, I don't know if it was because of, you know, because I told him, hey, man, for the last week, I've been sitting with a pillow under my leg, couldn't even move, you know. He's like, I don't know if it's because of that or because you were 3,000 feet up in the air, 30,000 feet, whatever it is, you know, and the elevation. So he said a number of things could have caused this blood clot, and or the 2 blood clots. But if it got dislodged, you know, that's how you get a.
That's what I was gonna say. You're lucky during that period of time. You didn't move the wrong way, and it did dislodge and go to your lung or your heart.
What do they call that?
Pulmonary embolism.
Yeah, pulmonary. I can't even say it. Pulmonary embolism.
It's almost like a silent killer because
you never know what it is.
Yep. I was going to ask a question. I was going to go back because I know when Chris was in treatment, he would like people that also sell drugs. They also get addicted to the the high you get from selling drugs. Did you feel like that was another one of your addictions?
No, that's a myth. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, of course. The fast life is. I mean, that's what you see in the music videos. That's what you see in the media, you know, like fast cars, beautiful women, you know, like flashy lights, all that. I mean, here's the thing. No matter what, your life is going to become unmanageable if you're doing the drugs or if you're selling the drugs because everybody else's life is going to become unmanageable, you know, and easy come, easy go. Everything I've ever had. I mean, we got to a point in Arizona, we were living in a 6,000 square foot house in a mansion, you know, that we were renting out monthly. That was absolutely amazing. I mean, but it also, everybody was high there, you know, whatever their drug was, everybody had a different drug they were on. And, you know, at the time people just stopped by. None of those people were our friends. Nobody was, you know, everybody was just a drug zombie. And to other people that would come visit, they'd be like, dude, you guys live the life. But little did they know we were just miserable, you know? And, when it comes down to the money and the drugs and the cars and all that kind of stuff, you do get addicted to it because, oh, you've got a bill to pay. Oh, no problem. All you got to do is make a couple of stops, a couple of drops, and you're fine, you know? Yeah. And then when you're sitting there in treatment with $0 and they get you something called general assistance because you're not allowed to work, you're basically a vulnerable adult. Oh. It's really humbling, you know? And you sit there and look back on it like... Man, if I wanted a new pair of shoes, I'd just stop and buy them. If I wanted this, I'd just go stop and get it, you know? And you're sitting there like, boy, I've got 30 days with $100. It's pretty ridiculous. But then you hear all these people talking about, I get this, and when I'm out there, I got that. And it's like, you know, we're all the same in here. Nobody's rich. Everybody's fucking shit broke. But yeah, here's the weirdest part. So, it's through all my addictions. The craziest one I've ever had would be actually what we just talked about. I mean, the flashy lights and the fast life. And, I have dreams about it, you know, when you go to sleep, like even in treatment or in jail, you know, you have dreams of that. And then you wake up and you're like, shit, I'm back in treatment, you know, or, I'm back in jail. And it's your mind kind of unwiring those like the grooves you were talking about that you kind of dig out in your brain, you know, those impulses. And, it's kind of weird because your brain eventually just rewires itself. And I never thought I'd get to the point where I'm able to sit down with my family again and have a nice dinner and actually talk with them like a normal person, because when I was in the worst parts of my addictions, it was everybody else's fault. You know, everything that ever happened in my life, I blame it on somebody else, or this is why this happened, or this is why that happened, or this is why this person doesn't like me. You know, and then here I am right now, my last supper with my family before my sentencing tomorrow, which I should be fine. I should just go in and get the 2-year probation, which I'll get transferred over to Hennepin County, and everything should be fine. But I want to be free so I can help other addicts. But even if I do go to jail, I'm going to spend my time trying to help people get sober, even though I'm in the worst place possible. Yeah. I have to look at this thing positively, you know.
Well, that's great, dude. And I mean, when I was in treatment, every single night that I was in there, I had a dream about using. Like, it was without fail. So I relate to that big time. Yeah, it's so wild. Like, have you heard of euphoric recall?
No.
So if like an example would be like if you get into a car and like a car that you used to be in and accidentally find drugs in there, just seeing it, or like going to spots that you used to get high at. Yep. That muscle memory can activate and it's like getting a miniature buzz for like.
Yeah, it happens every day to me.
Every day. So that's what that is like your muscle memory goes, oh, remember? And then remember. And then it kind of sinks you in. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's got a funny sense of humor. Because I have to recall a lot of the bad decisions I made. But what's crazy is every time I put on a pair of skates, a million memories go through my head. Some of the best times ever, some of the worst times ever. But you know, it's just like anything else. It's like, what do you do with those memories, or how do you process those memories? You know, and a lot of the times talking about it just helps. And I think that's the worst part about being addict or being when you're actually in active addiction is not talking to anybody about anything. You're processing everything by yourself with a kind of a fucked up mind, you know?
Absolutely.
And the craziest, like you said, is having dreams every night you're in jail. I don't know how long you were in jail for. I was in there for 6 months. And here's the weird part is that every night you go to bed, you know, every 30 minutes or every 45 minutes, depending on what kind of jail you're in, you know, the guards walk around slamming the doors like assholes because they want to make sure nobody gets a good night's sleep, and they're doing their rounds, you know. And so that makes for like 6 to 8 different dreams throughout your entire night because you're waking up every time they come through if you're a light sleeper like I am. So, I mean, I've had thousands of drug using dreams or thousands of, you know, different women dreams, you know? Yeah. none of them good. Because then you wake up in an orange jumpsuit, making you line up against the wall, or, you know, that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, man, I'm thankful for what happened to me 16 months ago because of who I am today. But I also, if I can help anybody try and avoid going through what I've gone through to get here, I would definitely spend most of my time doing that if I could. So that's why I'm going to be a peer recovery coach and looking into getting certified for that after this whole ordeal tomorrow. But we'll see what happens. And my whole family's coming to back me at court, and trying to help the judge look at me as not just another number, which is 95% of the addicts they're going to reoffend or reuse, or start, reoffend or relapse, but as that possible 5% that has been doing nothing but good and will continue to do good and fight with addiction every day. And, it's a losing battle because every day from our treatment facility, we see a news report of somebody who got into, man, if I could tell you, it sucks so bad. The friends that we've lost just since I started going to recovery. I lost a friend while I was in treatment, one of my best friends, a tattoo artist. His name is Ben McStalker. And, he died of an overdose while we were in treatment. And then one of our really young friends, he was 19 years old. Nobody really knows what happened, but something happened where the cops were coming after him and he decided to shoot himself. And he was only 20 years old when he died. And, seeing him in an open casket and stuff, you really start to see this addiction. Like there's no winning, there's really no winning. The only thing you can do is fight it every day and hope you can get more people to see the light that getting fucked up isn't the way to do it. And, I try and talk to as many people as I can about addiction, but there's a lot of people that just love to use it as a way to cope with whatever happened to them in their life.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, in the world. Like the rollerblading community, like the more that I try to reach out to people, like it's so weird to think that like asking someone to travel across the country just to go to a skate contest, no problem. Asking somebody to talk about addiction, completely closed off. Like it's so wild the shit that we used to do.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like this, this thing that's super important, people are really closed off to it. And
here's the thing: while I was using, or while I was not really using, well, I guess no matter what, it was active addiction. But whether I was aware of my addiction or not, that's the last thing you want to talk about. And I completely get that because nobody wants to think about what's really going on while they're just, until you realize you have a problem or until you hit that rock bottom, you don't realize that that's a fight you're going to have to take head on at some point, and whether you're going to lose or you're going to win. When I would see people talk about it, or it's like almost like the debate about helmets,
Oh yeah.
I'm all for it. I'm all for people wearing helmets. I've actually thought about coming out with a company that makes ones that are easier to use, that don't look like your, Princess Toadstool, while you're trying to rollerblade. But what's crazy is, until you have that head trauma, until you get knocked completely the fuck out, or until you deal with something where, my brother got into a car accident in 2006, I want to say it is. And, he was a DUI accident, but he put his face through his radio and turned his car into an accordion going 60 miles an hour on US Highway 60 and he was shit-faced. And he had been playing a drinking game with a couple of buddies and decided to come over to my house and just drop by on a visit, and I get a call from the head trauma unit at 6 a.m. saying, "We got your twin brother here. He's in bad shape. Get down here." And pretty sad seeing your brother with his chin hanging open and his face fat as hell. And he's got his jaw broken in a couple different places. And he's still got the open wound on his chin from where his impact was. And, he's asking me he's like, Mike, you got to get me out of here. And I'm like, dude, you're not going anywhere. He's like, I got to take a piss. And I look and I see a giant bag of pee on the side of the bed. It's like, dude, you got a catheter in, bud. I'm like, dude, is he dead? Like, what's going on with this guy? Does he have brain damage? And those kind of head injuries change people for life,
Yeah.
And, so am I opposed to like the helmet talk? No, absolutely not. I've hit my head so hard at MCC. I was sure I was dead, but Ben Weiss pulled up at the base of the stairs, like, we got a bleeder. And that's all I kind of remember. And John Elliott holding my scalp together. And, it was weird. We were out shooting for the top amateurs of the year 2000, and I cracked my head open. And I think it's honestly, it's up to that person, whether that's become, a huge battle for you. I'm all for it. And it even comes down to the mask debate right now, which I hate getting into. Fuck, do I hate getting into that. Like, this whole thing is so goddamn confusing. Like, well, do you want a pedophile or do you want a piece of shit for a president? You only get two choices. And then everybody, how about this? You guys, while we're at it, when we put one of these dickheads into office, why don't you guys all fight about whether you should wear a mask, and then let's throw some civil unrest in there, And this whole thing is so goddamn confusing to be alive this day and age. I'm just glad I'm sober for it,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I was in treatment when COVID hit, and like,
So was I.
It's so weird. Like, it was the best thing for me personally to have happen, because it made me think about, like, I couldn't even think about using because I was so worried about my family. That was just like, it threw me in the perfect headspace. So like, it's obviously it's horrible what's going on, but for me, like, it was
like a blessing in disguise. Yeah. When you come out and all the bars are closed and can't really go anywhere. When you go to the grocery store, there's like no food on the shelves, and so you don't really go anywhere.
No toilet paper.
No toilet paper.
Yeah, no toilet paper.
Yeah. And I didn't tell him how bad it was, because I didn't know how triggering it would be when we would talk on the phone, or like when I would visit. But I was at home freaking out because our 2 kids were coming home from school. I didn't know what was going to happen. I work in the hospital as a nurse, so I don't even know what's going to happen with my job. It was such a mess. And then finally one night he's like, you just got to let it out. And I let it out. Like, it's scary going to the grocery store. I don't know what's going to happen with our kids in school and my job. I don't know. Like, if I get sick, I work in the emergency room, and
gosh.
Yeah. So I was please don't come out.
You're a super strong woman for dealing with all that. And Chris,
absolutely.
I commend you for actually, going to treatment and getting that shit dealt with. I mean, it wasn't law or legal issues that brought you to your rock bottom that made you go.
No.
It was very close. I had a suicide attempt.
Okay. And so that happens.
I was in the hospital for 8 days before I went in.
Okay.
But I like planned on, I had two shooters hidden in my jacket that I was going to drink when I got home as like a congratulations for being sober for 8 days or whatever. Like, it was so weird.
It's crazy how sick our minds have been,
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking back on it, it's like, dude, what was I thinking? But at the time you're like, aha, like a mad scientist.
But dude, the mindset that you have right now, there are people that relapse for way less. Like the positive like viewpoint that you have on no matter what happens, things can be bad, things can be great, but you're never going to be able to appreciate or make it through those things unless you have a sober mind. So
true.
That is so hard for people to get to that point. So what you're dealing with and being so positive at the same time it's so nice to hear, dude. I really appreciate that you're going about it the way you are.
Yeah, I mean, inside I'm freaking out a little bit. I'm still, a nerve-wracking kind of a mess when it comes to that. As an addict, obviously, I deal with that every day. But I've been to so much therapy. Like, there's this sweetheart of an angel therapist named Molly Bailey for the Minnesota Trauma Institute, who is God sent. And this woman taught me how to actually have compassion, empathy, because I was just some hot-headed, cool. I mean, you couldn't tell me I wasn't cool. I thought I was the coolest person you've ever met, and she was like, well, yeah, like, the way you think about things are kind of fucked up. And I'm like, what did this lady just say to me? I'm in her parenting class. I'm like, dude, fuck this. She doesn't know what she's talking about. By the end of it, I mean, this person has taught me more about how to be, have empathy, things like that, and not only that, but have empathy for myself, like have compassion for myself. Yeah, I did some fucked up shit during, active addiction, wasn't there for my kids, but I'm doing all the things that I can do now to be an active part of their life on a daily basis. And I think for any addict struggling, the best thing I can tell you is, I think one of the most important things is if it's mental illness, they have ways to treat it. If it's addiction because, you've had trauma in your life, there's ways to deal with it. And if there's something that's really fucking with you about just even the way the world is today, there's ways to deal with it. And being sober, we'll never understand completely what's going on or why we only have these 2 choices as presidents, what's going to happen with COVID. But damn, if they can teach you coping skills to deal with it, and I mean, in between box breathing, even my therapist just tells me, can you feel your feet right now? And I'm like, what is this hippie talking about?
Grounding
the first time she
techniques.
told me that. Yeah. When she first told me that, I was like, what is she talking about? Of course I can feel my fucking feet right now. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then after a while, like, you don't realize, like, I even use this before I try a handrail I don't want to do, Like, hey, man, can you feel your feet right now?
Or it's like flexing each of your, like a muscle in your body. And just
every muscle in your body sometimes, or squeezing your hands and letting go. Squeezing your hands, like just taking those sensories or like those senses and and feeling something else that'll take you away from because I used to be really hot-headed, and I would want to fight anybody. And in jail, I got in 3 fights, and you can get felony assault of a vulnerable adult in jail if you fight somebody. And I got really fortunate and didn't catch any of those charges while I was in Wisconsin prison or jail. And I'll tell you the truth, when I went to treatment, if anybody called me a bitch or a punk, we were fighting, and that's a really fucked up place to go fight somebody,
Yeah.
And there was a lot of dudes in there that are looking to fight because they just want somebody to punch their ticket so they can get out of there, because they're there from their probation officer or their parole agent, and the lessons that this woman taught me, Molly Bailey, and this place, RSE men's program, if I wouldn't have learned those kind of coping skills, first, having compassion, you don't know what anybody's going through, so when people want to try and fight you and you're that dude that's ready to be their huckleberry, some of those coping skills or, the breathing techniques, those kind of things actually help. But at the time when you're a tough guy, you're not going to learn any of that, and I snapped out of it and started realizing I'm going to take this seriously. So now, I'm not the same hot-headed dude. Not saying I'm a punk or a punk or a bitch, but one of the funniest jokes that we had in treatment, because we had a lot of good dudes that were in there, and a lot of good dudes I still stay in contact with, because going through being vulnerable and talking to other adults about what you've been through in your life, and what it is, or the reasons why you're sad at the time. Talk to another man about why you're not feeling so happy at the time is tough to do. For any male, and getting vulnerable and talking about that stuff it's pretty insane, but some good jokes come out of it. And one of them, we would look at each other cross-eyed and say, "Get out of my bitch ass face." Kind of took away that stigma of, "Hey, did you just call me a bitch?" Yeah, I call myself a bitch. So, I'm going to go to jail. No, if I do go to jail, I'm going to go there with a head on me, knowing, man, that I'm here for a reason. And I always think if I ever do go to jail again, like I was for that 6 days, when the judge revoked my bond, it was, I knew there was a reason I had to go there. And one of the reasons I knew in my mind and in my heart was that I didn't ever quit smoking cigarettes. And I was like, all right, well, that's one of the reasons I'm here. I'm going to quit smoking because I can't smoke in jail. And if I'm here for 60 days, I'm going to make the best of it, and I'm going to quit smoking for the rest of my life. And even though I got out 6 days later, I still haven't had a cigarette ever since. And that was cool. But the main thing was I was in there in the quarantine cell with 3 other guys. And they were going through it. They're like, man, one of them was an alcoholic. One of them was a young kid, and he was just a drug addict. And the other kid just started getting getting assault charges because him and his girlfriend would fight, and he'd go beat up whatever guy she cheated on him with. Oh. So to each person, I was able to offer out, my advice and being sober and telling them about RS Eden. One of them actually discharged from Polk County Jail and went to RS Eden and is there now. And I just feel like, if it's God's plan, because I'm super spiritual. I grew up in a Catholic program, and it's called Transfiguration. And where they guilt you into being religious, which is honestly the worst approach. I'm not going to sit here and tell people who are Catholic, try and heal yourself from Catholicism, but I'm actually healed. I'm going through recovery from Catholicism, not in the way that the Catholic Church is known for, but the stigma that's around guilting people into it,
Oh, yeah.
And, I believe more now in God's grace and just knowing there's a higher power, kind of what AA teaches, and NA, but I just know that there's a plan, and I know that I'm here for a reason, and I actually am blessed every day I wake up. So I try and just take that one day at a time seriously and try and do whatever I can to help another addict, because that's what helped me. If it weren't for the guys coming into the jail and coming into the treatment facility with the message of NA, I don't think I'd be sober today. So
well, that's amazing, man.
Yes, sir. And I've actually kind of missed my final dinner here with my family, so I gotta kind of get going, or else. Yes. My mom made fried chicken for me just because I requested it, and now they're all looking out the window like about to be done. So. All
right, dude. Well, thank you again so much.
No problem, man. It's a pleasure to meet you guys over the phone.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I can meet you guys in person.
Absolutely, man. Well, you stay safe, and again, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. If you guys ever want to go skating or something, let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, Chris. Hey, you guys have a great night, okay?
You too, man. I'm so glad, because how many times have I been saying that like this underlying thing of addiction in the rollerblading community, and nobody wanted to talk about it.
Yeah. And I mean, as an outsider, I saw a lot of it, and it was just mainly RTP where we'd see these people, and we were not even 21 at the time, and seeing all these people so messed up on different drugs, and it's like, what in the crap is
not
going on?
even RTP though, like Street Fighter.
Yeah, I guess I didn't see it as much there. I feel like RTP is one that really is stuck in my head because of how like I could not believe these people are doing these hard drugs and the stories. And I mean, people would just laugh about it, and I'm not gonna say we didn't laugh about some of the stories, but it's sad to think about like. And watching these people like level up, do so well in rollerblading, and their addiction they brought them. I mean, they could have succeeded so far, and some of their addictions just really took over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think your crew wasn't. I mean, you guys didn't get hammered all the time and skate.
Really.
No. I think you were more of I can't drink and skate until you started doing it here,
right,
but like with your friends, because I mean,
that's
and I
interesting.
wonder if there's any like correlation with how messed up somebody is and how many injuries they have and how bad, because you feel looser, you're not as alert, and you may try things that you normally wouldn't try in rollerblading, and then you get really messed up.
It all depends on the person. Like
I guess
there's like people get in their head about how I'm drunk, I'm gonna fall for sure if I try to skate, and like you would hear them say that stuff, and then there was other people who were like, sometimes the best skating I do is when I'm high or when I'm drunk, and those people would skate really good. Like,
same with musicians, like I can only write music when I'm under the influence and stuff like that. But
it's interesting, man. I mean, it's weird. But that conversation was absolutely awesome. I mean, because him and Derek, like they got to skate with like the god of rollerblading. Like, do you remember hearing about Dustin Latimer? He was like everyone's at least top 3, if not like favorite skater for so long, and we saw them like being able to hang out with them all the time, and we were just like, holy shit. And like he was saying, like being able to go on these tours and just throwing absolute hammers. I mean, especially in Minnesota, I don't know about other states, but like we just thought that they were absolutely crushing it, and to know that there was so much struggle along with that you know, to hear him so positive. Oh my gosh. And to go to treatment for that long, and to like make the decision on his own to do it. Yeah. That's and to be as positive. Like, he could have went to jail for those 6 days and came out and been like, fuck it, if I'm just gonna keep going to jail for this, I might as well use. And that happens all the time. I know. I mean, I see people come through, you hear these stories, and it's like, well, if they're going to pull me over because they think I'm under the influence, I might as well be under the influence. Or if my family's going to accuse me of using all the time, I might as well just be using. It's like that, people accuse someone of cheating, I might as well go out and sleep with someone else if they're going to accuse me of it anyway. So it's like that mindset of like, well, F it. But he, like I said, he could have gone out after those 6 days and been like, well, if this judge doesn't care if I even try and better myself, then screw it. What's the point? But for him to be like, nope, I'm going to quit smoking this time. It's like, wow. Yeah, that's very impressive. Very, very. And like, that was like, I connected with so much of that because we talk about obviously mental health, how important that is, and like, and how there are correlations.
And I just want to point out, like, it sounds like he was I don't want to say closed-minded to therapy, but very like, And for him, like, these people that I meet, so many people that are like, I don't want to go to therapy. Like, it's not going to help. And for some people, I mean, it can help. It can really help.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to have that cool guy persona, like him and his brother are gorgeous individuals. Like, and we would joke about that too.
Why didn't we have him in person then?
Wow.
I'm just teasing.
Because then I'd look even uglier.
He had his last dinner tonight. So
yeah. That worked out, I'm glad. Yeah, that did work out really good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last night you went to open mic and like you did an open mic for the first time in months.
Mm-hmm.
And how did it go?
Yeah.
That was one of the places you used a lot.
For sure. Yeah. And it was like the last place that I had like probably my most major like manic like event, I would say is, you know, I would tell people all that night, like when they were like, you're quitting comedy for real? And it was just like, yep, I'm an addict. So I have to quit everything because I'm just addicted to everything and all this patronizing bullshit.
Man, I don't miss that guy, that patronizing Chris. Oh, he was the worst.
It was insane.
God, it was
it's
insane.
So
it was
weird
like it was like your Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like I can now, like, I thought then I could see these two different sides of you, but like the longer you're sober, it's like, wow, there really was two different sides of you. And like I hated myself for hating certain hating you at times, because it's like I love him like crazy because we'd have those good moments. But then like when you like recall these things, it's like, God, it was literally like living with two different people. And I didn't know which one was going to be here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they don't call them mind altering substances for no reason. And the more that you do it, the more that you're conditioned to think that you are like to your point, what you were talking about before, like you just condition yourself to think that you're this bad person.
Yeah.
And so you might as well lean into it.
Yeah.
And I did that a lot.
Yeah. So you did comedies in a bar.
In a bar.
Yeah.
In the bar.
In the bar.
I always say that that's like the first place I ever did real stand up, and it was gonna be the last place that I ever did real stand up. And but yeah, it was weird. It was weird being there. Obviously, COVID stuff makes it even weirder.
Yeah.
But got to see a bunch of people that I hadn't seen in a long time, and yeah, I mean.
Can we just do a PSA, public service announcement? I'm just going to say it then. If you know someone's in active recovery, you do not put a beverage or their DOC in front of them and try and make it a joke, because it's not funny.
Yeah, I keep trying to, like, anybody who's listened to this show knows that, like, I don't, like, cast stones. Like, I've tried to look at things from all sides. Yeah. And the only thing that I can come up with is, like, as comics, we joke about the darkest shit because it, like, helps us heal. But sometimes it goes too far. Yeah. And, yeah, this comic, I was talking with James because he came and did the podcast. And we were talking, and this comic brought a pitcher of beer over and, like, put it on the table in between James and I thought he was just like resting it. And then he started to slide it over to me. And I was like, okay. I thought he was going to like pull it away last second, like, and be like, I'm just kidding. Because that type of shit I can get on board with. Be as dark as you want. But then for some reason, they took it off of the table and put it on top of my hands and like was trying to get me to hold it. Like, and he had just heard me, like, before the mic had started, talking to another comic about addiction and, like, how the podcast is going well. And this person asked to be on our podcast, and it's like, I mean, that's so disrespectful. Yeah. Like, I get that, like, I'm a self-deprecating dude and, like, I don't command respect, but, like, that is the only time that I can think of where, like, you don't respect me at all, like, if that's what you're doing. Yeah, yeah. And, yeah, I ended up blocking them on Facebook, and I'm just going to not deal with it. Like,
so just, I'm going to say PSA again.
Here, I'll say this. You don't think that shit like that is going to happen, because it seems like that's the shit that happens in the movies, or like in a bad like Dare ad or
like
something.
If you're in recovery, you don't think that can happen to you.
Yeah, you don't think that it's going to be that like apparent or like that forced on you. And apparently it happens. So like be an asshole. Like if that type of shit is coming your way, don't be afraid to get more angry than than they think is appropriate, because
why
it's
didn't you get
obviously
angry?
the only. Because I was just shocked. I didn't know. I didn't know that shit happens. I didn't know that. I would never have guessed that. You know what I mean?
And I think even when we were, drinking and all that, if someone told us they were in recovery, we never would force drinking on them. Like, there was someone that would kind of be in our circle when we would drink, and that person has had alcohol issues happen. And I don't know if they don't drink for legal issues. It doesn't really matter why they don't drink. But we would never be like, come on, take a shot with us. Do you want a beer? They would sit there and they drink sodas, and we didn't say anything about it.
And that was the other thing that was so weird, because I can't even imagine, like,
a time that we.
Well, no, not just a time that we. I don't know the mindset that you would need to have to put it in someone's face, something traumatic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it doesn't apply just to substances.
No, I get what you're saying. Like, a traumatic event, like, let me just put this in your face so you can keep replaying it over and over and over again. Yeah. Yeah. Like, if someone could videotape that traumatic event that happened to you, and you can pull it up on your camera and just put it in their face.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, that's really shitty. That's a gooder way.
It is a gooder way.
It's a gooder way. A better way to put it. Like, someone that's kind of went through therapy, let's say treatment, therapy, and they finally feel like they've kind of worked on it. I mean, it's always with trauma, you're always kind of working through that, because you're always going to have triggers to rework through the trauma. I'm at a good place now. Someone brings the phone up to my face and they're showing me some traumatic event I was a part of. It's going to re-trigger that, your brain. You almost go in that fight and flight again.
Yeah.
And I'm sure feeling that cold glass under your hand, there was some, it gotta have been.
Well, not just a glass, a pitcher.
Yeah.
Like, that is, it's so weird.
It is really weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, just like deer in the headlights, because luckily James was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, knock it off. But, I mean, he and I talked about it on the way home. We were just like, we didn't get it. We didn't.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just so weird. I don't know how else to say it. It's so odd.
Well, I mean, at least your first night back, and something that, I mean, that's pretty abrasive happened. Now you're going to be like, cool. Kind of. Now you're going to be like, well, hopefully, I don't know. Can't imagine. I mean, you're so vocal about your recovery and treatment and all that.
Yeah.
It's just still, I'm so like, that's why I said, this person must not have known you went to treatment. And you're like, no, I was talking about it with him. And it's like, well, what the fuck then?
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
and it makes me think too, like, we should always be aware of our surroundings. And like, now, I mean, obviously it's not going to happen now, but like when we were drinking, like, to be aware of our surroundings, like, not, just people in general. When you are hanging out with people, be aware of your surroundings. And people might not drink because they don't want to drink, or they might be in recovery and you don't know. I'm just vocal. I'm obviously not in recovery, but I choose to be sober because I prefer myself as a sober person, and I like the environment that we have created. I don't look down on people. When I went to that wedding last weekend, no one pushed it on me. Everyone drank around me. They were fine. And I just drank soda, and it wasn't like a weird thing. Yeah. And so just don't make it a weird thing. Yeah. It's not like we're sitting around a ton of people doing meth and I'm not doing meth, and they're like, well, why aren't you doing meth? Like, it's a substance. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, yeah, that is an interesting thing. Like, people get a little like, not defensive, but like just a little on guard because they're worried that people like you and I are judging them.
And I'm not.
Yeah, no. We just want to be treated.
I just want to be treated. Else. Yeah. Yeah. And I like having that, like I talked on the last episode, you can go back and listen to the last episode if you want, where I like having that clear mind where I feel like I am alert and my reflexes are really well, and I know that my kids are taken care of. Yeah. And sometimes I would, not like my people around me were peer pressuring me, but I felt like I had to drink because like I went to adult prom and I drink a lot. Like there was places where I'd be like, yeah, everyone around me is drinking a lot and they're having a lot of fun. I should probably drink, because you almost feel like you're making other people uncomfortable. But it got to the point where I became the DD a lot because I wanted to come home and be with the kids.
Oh, and
I wanted to be home. I didn't want to pass out at someone's house. Like, I'm 30.
Yeah.
I just want to be at my house. So it became that where, and then when your addiction was getting worse, it's like, I just wanted to be sober.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I obviously we've talked about it before.
Yeah, we
but
talked about it on other episodes. Sorry for repeating the same thing.
No. That's okay. Because I'm sure there's going to be new listeners, people who haven't heard that. So.
And I don't judge. Like I said, I didn't judge anyone at any event if they're drinking. Our friends, we still have friends that drink.
Yeah.
We're going to probably be around it, and I'm not judging you. I'm not looking down on you.
Yeah. Well, I have friends that work at breweries, and I'm not like calling them drug dealers or like being fucking weird about it.
Yeah.
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 Well,
one addiction we're trying to kick right now is our sweet addiction.
Oof.
We both have gone down a
So
bad
bad.
path. And I stepped on the scale today, and I was like, that's enough.
that's enough.
Because I quit for a long time, and then the selling of the house threw me down a spiral of I'm just going to feed. Like, I can't control the house stuff, but I can control what I put in my mouth. And I almost go the opposite way. I either go one way or the other, where I get obsessed with what I am eating, or I just don't give a fuck. And I went way over here. Now I need to come just in the middle.
Yeah.
Not be super like, oh, I can't eat this. Like, just be like, okay, I'm going to be content and eat healthier foods and not stuff myself till I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, same time next week.
I'll be here. I live here.
That was a joke because that's the dude absolutely thing.
Oh.
It's okay.
I don't listen to that. I
right.
heard too many weird things in those shows. So.
Well, I love you.
I love you.
You're wonderful.
You're wonderful.
Thank you so much for all of the work that you've been doing around the house, getting things ready and managing all this shit. It's a nightmare.
You know, one day at a time.
One day at a time. That is what they say.
That is what they say.
All right. You know what else they say?
And then they say,
and with that, we will pass.